Veterans. What are they? They're veterans. Veterans. What are they? They are the men and women who sacrifice their lives every day. Not only do they sacrifice their lives, but their families' lives, their dreams, and their hopes, just for you and I. They have the most patience, with the lowest maintenance for themselves. They risk their own lives so we may live freely without strife. They are helpful, so very thoughtful. It's undoubted that they do it for our safekeeping, giving to us the comfort and happiness we deserve so little, the safety of our homes, the love our families resting so well in the knowledge of knowing that we are protected. So ring the alarm, let it be heard, let it be known, let everyone recognize our veterans who have saved our lives and our loved ones' lives and have fought since the day our life began, who will continue to fight to the day their life ends.
What are you saying? Don't make song with the thing. That's what you want to sing a solo? No. What you say? Huh? Don't make song with the page 30. Send the light. Page 30. The Arctic Songbooks, page 30. Here we go. There's a call comes ringing o'er the restless waves, send the light, send the light. There are souls to rescue, there are souls to save, send the light, send the light, send the light. The blessed gospel light, let it shine from shore to shore. Send the light, the blessed gospel light, let it shine forevermore. This sounds terrible, doesn't it? That sounds bad. This is the last verse. Here we go. Let us not grow weary in the work of love. Send the light, send the light. Let us gather jewels for a crown above. Send the light, send the light, send the light. The blessed gospel light, let it shine from shore to shore. Send the light, the blessed gospel light, let it shine forevermore. Okie dokie. A couple prayer requests. There's in church on Sunday. I think it was Katrina asked prayer for a lady who was she already had a double lung transplant and had pneumonia, and they'd flown her to Pittsburgh, if I remember correctly. I think it's Katrina. Somebody over here has a prayer request. And I was at work today, and the lady asked me to pray for the same person, the young lady whose last name is Mobley. And they asked us to pray for her. So that is a spoken prayer request has been given to me. They asked me to pass it on to everybody else to pray for this young lady. She's already had a lung transplant, but she's got pneumonia. She's really sick, so pray for her here. Okay. There's other private situations we can't talk about. People have special needs within the church family. Pray for those with special needs that guidance needs to be given. So ask God to give guidance and wisdom to our church family in decisions that people have to make. Okay, in the personal lives. Anybody else with prayer requests? Okay, there's Randy. Okay. There's Miss Marie. She's doing much better. She's here Sunday. We're glad she's walking well. There's a continued healing. Okay. Okay. There's a whole lot of people who've been sick here lately the last few weeks. It's covered. All right, anybody else? Anybody with unspoken requests you want to pray about? Not finished that later. Charlie, would you lead some prayer? Okay, here's a Sissonville's Community Christmas Parade is December 3rd at 4:30, and we'll have a float in the parade, and everyone's invited to participate in that. Then there's a fall concert December 2nd at Sissonville Community Center at Aldersgate, and it's at 7 p.m. And the singing for that, we've been invited to join in the singing for that. Charlie, did the show the last back came out of town? I think we missed. Right. Trying to find, I think it was Thursday, November 10th at 6:30 tomorrow night. So Cindy and whoever wants to sing, that's tomorrow night, 6:30, we're going to practice, okay? So be there, okay? Or you can sing, Charlie. Right, clears up, okay? All right, anybody got a praise report or testimony? God bless in some certain way. You want to tell everybody about it? Some specific way. You've been blessed, unbelievably blessed. Word blessed means unbelievably happy. Anybody? Twice? Yes, sir. Very good. I'm glad Terry was here too. Some others, Zane, Blaine and Owen was here, and some others that was here. And it's glad to see him. Good to see him. Good to see him. Anybody else? Colossians chapter 4. We're in the book of Colossians. Colossians chapter 4. Everybody remember the person we talked about last Wednesday night? Last Wednesday night, well, let's see. No, everybody was sick last Wednesday. You were sick last Wednesday, weren't you? That's right. Nobody was here Wednesday night. Miss Joe fell. Charlie was sick. And I think last Wednesday night I was in here by myself. But me and Donna was the only ones here in the auditorium last Wednesday. So nobody would, unless you watched it from home, nobody would remember what the lesson was. Okay, Colossians chapter 4. I'm going to read a couple verses, okay? Since you all weren't here last week, I'm going to review just a little bit of last week and I'll get into something else here, okay? Look, we've had teaching, first chapter of Colossians, about how glorious God is, how wonderful everything we have is in Christ. First couple chapters, everything we have is in Christ. But look down, Colossians chapter 4, look down at verse 7. We'll read the first part of this verse and we'll skip a couple verses, okay? All my state, Paul was writing to this church. He said, all my state shall Tychicus declare unto you, who's a beloved brother, faithful minister, and fellow servant in the Lord. Okay, look down, we'll read a couple verses. Whom I sent unto you for the same purpose, that he might know your estate and comfort your hearts with Onesimus, a faithful and beloved brother, as one of you, they shall make known unto you all the things which are done here. Aristarchus, my fellow prisoner, salute you, and Marcus, sister son of Barnabas, touching whom you receive commandments. If he come to you, receive him. Stop reading right there. Paul writes, and he does this a couple of the different letters that he's writing to different churches. He will individually list people, say salute this person or greet this person or greet one another with a holy kiss. But he often brings one person out or another person. I think it's one of the books where he lists almost 25 or 30 different people. So greet this person, salute this person. Okay, last week, that you weren't here, I'm going to review kind of part of this. Last week we went over Marcus. In verse 10, he says, Aristarchus, fellow prisoner, salute you, and Marcus, sister son of Barnabas, okay? Touching whom you receive commandments, if he come to you, receive him. Last week we talked about Marcus for a minute, for a few minutes. And Marcus on the first, and Paul and Barnabas' first missionary journey. Marcus is Barnabas' nephew. He went with them on the journey, but they ran into demons, they had all kinds of problems and different things. Before they actually got into the mission field, Marcus turned around and went back home. This is John Mark, wrote the book of Mark. Okay? So Marcus was with them, and he turned around and went back home. On their second journey, Paul and Barnabas started out, and Barnabas says, I want to take Mark with us again. Paul says, I don't want to take Marcus with me. I don't take Mark with us because he quit the last time before we even got to the work. And I don't want him to go. Okay. So the dissension between Paul and Barnabas was so sharp that Paul and Barnabas couldn't go together. Barnabas took Mark and went one direction. Paul took Silas on a different direction. The message last week, since we're going on this, is individually looking at people's lives and saying, if someone has made a big mistake in their lifetime, forgive them. I don't know if Mark made a mistake. The Bible doesn't tell why he turned back. Now, I've heard preachers preach. I heard a preacher on the radio this week talk about it. So Mark turned around and went home, blah, blah, blah. Well, he actually came back to the ministry. He never left the ministry. He just didn't go with them to that mission field that they were going to. He went back to Jerusalem, continued serving there, and then Paul later saying, another verse he says he's writing to one of the other churches. He says he's profitable to me. Okay, and in this verse he said, if he come to you, receive him. Okay, so somewhere along the line, Paul was no longer mad at Mark for turning around and going back to Jerusalem, and he's saying he's profitable to me. And I think it's Peter that writes to him and says, refers to him as his son. Okay, like a son of the faith. Okay. Looking at that, then I thought, well, who are these other people? Okay, who are these other people? Does anybody know who Tychicus is? Anybody spell Tychicus? Yeah, but John's right there in verse 7. You know how to spell it because it's written down. Okay, anybody know who Onesimus is? You know? Okay. What about Aristarchus, a fellow prisoner, slew? Anybody know who that is? Yeah, we just went through who Mark is. And actually, God used Mark to write the book of Mark. Okay. Look down another verse. Look at verse 17. Because he's still going through these other people at these verses. Verse 17 says this, and saying to Archippus, take heed to the ministry which thou hast received in the Lord, that thou fulfill it. Okay, so God's given this man, Archippus, a ministry. And he said, I want you to fulfill the ministry. Whatever that ministry is, you're supposed to fulfill it. I want you to make sure you fulfill the ministry. Who is Archippus? Turn the book of Philemon. Philemon, that's towards the back of the Bible. You got 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Okay. 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. 1st and 2nd Timothy, and Titus, and Philemon. Philemon is a personal letter that Paul's written to Philemon. Okay. In Philemon chapter 2, it says, unto our beloved Apphia and Archippus, our fellow soldier in the church in thy house. So let's look at who this guy is, because he said, take heed to the ministry and fulfill it. In Colossians chapter 4. What kind of ministry does this guy have? He has a church in his house. You ever want to have a church in your house? Anybody think it's a good idea to have a church in your house? Yeah. I've been to houses where we had church before. Okay? Well, yeah, we had to go underground, so we've been persecuted. Like they do that in China. Okay? They still have underground churches. I kind of wondered about the Third Amendment that we voted on yesterday, and I heard a preacher say we should vote for that amendment. It didn't pass. But I kind of wonder with incorporating the churches, if that means they're going to take all the money with taxes. I'm not sure why it didn't pass, so I don't know what we have to worry about it. Anyway, I think in America we may come to a point where maybe not in this state, but in other states, the churches are really going to be persecuted, okay, and have church in their house. But I think about what's a church thing? Do we need lights? Do we need heat? Yeah. Mark say, yeah, we need heat. Especially as we get older, we need heat. Do we need a parking lot? Do we need a paved parking lot? Do we need pews? Do we need soft pews? Carpet? Do we need central heat and air? Do we need all that stuff to have church? There was a guy who shortly after he told me this, he got out of the ministry completely. He said he wanted to have church in a tent. I said, you do? He said, yeah, that way it's 98 degrees in summertime. He said, you get real Christians show up. And the other ones stay home. Or if it was below zero and you're in a tent, he said, this was his philosophy. He said, below zero and you're in a tent, the real Christians are going to be there. The ones that are real dedicated to God, they're going to be there. They might be sick the next day, but they'll be at church. Okay. Of course, that man message was like ministry a couple of years, like within a year after that. Okay. So we really don't need to. We need a PA system. Right. If you look at the missionary pictures on the wall back here. So this archivist had a ministry at a church in his house. Okay? Now, I've known people in the area here that have church in their house, but just because they can't get along with anybody else. I don't need to go to church to be a Christian. Okay, you don't need to go to church to be saved. You got to go to church. You got to forsake not the assembling of yourselves together. But people can't get along with anybody else. They stay home. And they say, I don't need to be one of those people. Bunch of hypocrites down church. Well, that's hypocrites are staying home too. So I guess it applies both directions. Okay. So what do we need to have church? Do we need a roof over our head? I've heard people have church on the beach. Matter of fact, we're at a resort one time, and they didn't have church on the beach, but they had church in a convention hall at the resort. Okay, and it's pretty neat. We walked in, the guy said, he said, "Yo, last one's here, you guys sing." Me and Tammy was back then, two of her friends, and I can't remember if we sung or not, but they say, "Okay, you're here, you're supposed to sing." The last one, okay, you can have church anywhere, right? This guy had it in his house. Okay, what do you need to have church? 2 or 3 gathered together in my midst. Okay? So, does that give us an excuse to stay home? Because you get 5 in your house, Charlie. It's Joe, if Grace is with her, and Anita, and Julie, and Mike, or whatever, they can have 2 or 3, they can have 4 in their house, they have church there. Right? You have a couple people in the house. But does that mean we're supposed to stay home? When I read the missionary letters back here, and I read them all before we put them up on the board, which we got one yesterday from Thailand, I think it was. It was in China. They got run out of China, and they're still in the Far East somewhere. I can't remember exactly where it is. Anyway, when I read about this, and I look at some of these pictures back here, they got straw huts. So it's like Gilligan's Island huts, and you think about tornadoes come through there, or tsunami, and everything's gone. Okay, it doesn't take long to rebuild it. I guess we don't have much to rebuild with, but that's all they have. Okay, some of these guys are. We've had missionaries come through here, and you walk through and they go, "Wow, look at the building." They're amazed by the building. Okay, we were having a Wednesday night, this probably 10 years ago. We had a Wednesday night program. And a missionary was here visiting with us. It wasn't announced. He just showed up. So he had service with us. We had a good time together. And then we went upstairs, and the kids were playing games and eating. And kids were getting plates full of food, cake, pop, whatever else, snacks that they had upstairs. And they were getting plates full of food, taking a bite or two out of everything, and just throwing it away. And that missionary from the Philippines was sitting there just looking in the trash can. And realizing, knowing when he goes back, he's back now, back to the Philippines now. He's back now. Their church is not going to be indoors, and nobody's going to be throwing food away like that, right? There's nobody in his community would throw away a piece of cake, a half a piece of cake. They'd share with somebody else. Okay. All right. Then, so what do you got to have church? What do you got to have? 2 or 3 people. What else? Bible. Okay. Faith. Right? You know what else you always have in church? Singing. Now we don't sing every week. We do every Wednesday night. Sometimes I'm back there with kids singing. We don't have one. We don't have a song in here. Unless sometimes like tonight, you kind of wish they didn't have the song in here because I picked one that's too high and it wish it sounded like alfalfa trying to sing. Okay. You have singing. You have the Bible, not just to hold it, but to read it, preach from it, teach from it. Okay? You have people, you have faith. Okay? Okay. So we have church anyway. Matter of fact, I've had churches in a lot of homes. I've had church a lot of times in homes. Okay? Meet with people, pray with people. And I've had church at work before. There was a young lady who I'd met a few times. I'm a salesman. She was a buyer at a bank. I met with her a few times, and there were several people that worked in the cubicles around her, but nobody within 5 feet of her, 10 feet of her. But they all knew she was a Christian, and so she asked me some questions one day. Says, "While I'm working, and it's a job as a salesman, I was supposed to answer questions. So she asked me a couple of questions and did a couple of things. So I was answering away, and some other people were listening in, and we got done with our conversation. And she said, "Thanks for having church with me today, because it meant so much that I could put her at ease about a couple of things, and she was, she got the answers, biblical answers to her questions." Okay, there's a guy who was he was an associate pastor at a church, one of the Baptist church, at a different church. He was one of the buyers at a place where I was selling 2 years ago, and I met with him a couple times. He was going through a rough time as associate pastor. He's going through a really rough time, and so he was just asking me questions, and I was quoting scriptures from Proverbs, and he's like, "I've never read that. I've never read." He's like, he's never read Proverbs, and I was like, "What?" So we had church together. Okay, had good fellowship. Okay. He said, Paul writing to Archippus, he said, "Take heed to the ministry." Really. Read that verse again. Verse 10 says, verse 17. Say to Archippus, "Take heed to the ministry which thou hast received of the Lord, that thou fulfill it." Okay. Why would he tell him to take heed to the ministry? Because it's important, right? Brother Howells preached a message one time on I magnify my office. And he said, every ministry within any church is important. Okay? Doesn't matter what. Miss Debbie's back here with the nursery tonight. Okay? That's one of the biggest jobs in the church. Okay? To work in the nursery. I think it's one of the greatest jobs. Dave Castro comes in, take heed to the ministry. Dave Castro comes in and takes care of all of our finances. Make sure the lights are paid. Make sure the missionaries are paid. Make sure everything's taken care of financially. That's one of the biggest ministries of the church. But it's not up here. I mean, so a lot of people think that the only ministry is what the preacher does. The word minister means servant. Okay? So in whatever way you find to serve. Charlie, I think about when we built that swing set up here for the kids this summer, Vacation Bible School, and ladies come in and decorate everything and make it really big, Vacation Bible School. That is their ministry. Okay? When I was in college, every year they have a youth conference. And they would set out 7,000 chairs out around the lake shore and have preaching out by lake shore. And Brother Scott, the athletic director, would say, "Who's going to join me in the chair ministry this year?" And we'd have to, there'd only be like 10 guys out there setting up 7,000 chairs, and then the next day taking them all back down and stacking them in a trailer. And so to him it was a ministry. Because any way you serve, any capacity that you can serve, it doesn't matter if it's given to somebody else or serving someone else. Those who cooked for Sunday dinner back here last Sunday did a great job. I think we were finishing up tonight something that got sent home with us on Sunday. It's all good stuff, right? Okay, any capacity that you find to serve as a ministry should be a ministry. It can either be, if you do it for your glory, then you get your glory. You get a pat on the back, and that's it. If you're doing a service for other people, it is a ministry. Okay. If you're a prayer warrior, if you pray for other people, like the lady asked me today, she knew I would pray. At one of my customers, she said, "Will you pray for this? It's my daughter's friend that had a lung transplant, and she has pneumonia, and she's sick. I'm going to take her to Pittsburgh." I said, "I know that prayer request because we got that request on Sunday." And so, the lady's last name is Mobley. To me, on my job, people ask me to pray. It's part of my ministry, part of the opportunity to serve. Okay. We'll see what a church is. The word ecclesia means, the word church in Greek is ecclesia. It means a called out assembly. But it's the people, it's not the building. Separated from the world, to be a light to the world, to be different. Okay? He said, take heed to the ministry. So we got to figure out what our ministry is. Anybody here have a ministry? Anybody else have a ministry? You have one? Charlie, you got one for high school, junior high. You got ministry for the kids, right with you on Wednesday night. Okay? No, but as long as I got to be restrained so I don't choke on kids. Okay? Yeah, I'm not talking about school. But there's no fight. There's somebody upstairs. behind Mr. Doctor's dentures. So every one of us has a ministry somewhere, at home or at work, at church, out in the community. You know, when we had Marlon, when we were working at a concession stand a couple of years ago, worked over at the ball field concession stand, and Michelle comes over just to clean. She doesn't serve food; she just cleans all the time. Okay, but when we were back there working concession stand and cleaning up around the ball fields, wearing our Bible Baptist T-shirts that have Bible verse on the back of it. Let your light so shine before men that may see you good works and glorify the Father, your Father which is in heaven. So that was a ministry. It was a tremendous ministry, an opportunity that we had to serve. Okay, and any opportunity we take it. Take heed to the ministry, he said. Paul's right. He said, read it again. Take heed to the ministry which thou hast received of the Lord, and thou fulfill it. That means do it. That means whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, that you know it's a ministry to other people. Okay. There's a lady that her husband was a preacher in the prison ministry. He has been gone for about 20 years. Elvis Emerson was his name. I can't think of her first name. But Mrs. Emerson is still serving. We still, as a mission, they were missionaries of our church, so we gave them $25 a month, whatever it is that we paid the missionaries. We sent money to them, and now she's in her 80s, I think, and he's been gone probably for 15, 20 years, and she's still serving in that ministry. She cannot go to the prisons. She probably doesn't drive anymore, but she still has a ministry of preparing stuff for the ladies, for other ladies. The money we send, she spends that. There's her ministry taking care of these ladies that are in prison, that they can get the gospel. Okay, you have if you go to prison to preach somewhere, you have a captive audience. People can't leave. Once they get there, so they're not going anywhere. They got nothing else to do but listen to you. So they have a ministry to those prisoners, and a lot of those ladies get saved. And it might be just taking the money, and gathering stuff up, personal hygiene things, socks or whatever, and Bibles. It's hair braids or whatever ladies need in prison. What's stuff that they can't say it out loud. Okay, there's things that they need, and this lady takes care of it. Okay, and she has a ministry, and she can't even leave her house. She has a prayer ministry, pray for other people. Okay. Everybody should have a ministry, serving in some capacity. Okay. We have parade coming up in a couple weeks. Okay? Everybody can serve and pray. Some capacity, do something for it, right? That's good. Dorothy was in a parade last year, wasn't it? A couple years ago. Okay, everybody can do it. Okay? All right. What's your ministry? Take heed. It's important. Whatever job you do should be the biggest job in the church. Whether it's praying, giving, singing, teaching, doesn't matter what it is. Family secretarial work, David's financial work, David Underwood going around counting the kids, have the kids going home being excited about ringing the bell before every service. Okay? Whatever the ministry is, make it big. You think, I can't miss. It's important. Right? Thank you, Lord Jesus, for loving us. Help us be the Christians, whatever you think. Make full proof of the ministry you give us. Bring honor and glory to you in all we say and do. Not for our glory, there's nothing in it for us. We realize that. There's really nothing to it. But there is glory to you if you see others saved by it, or encourage other Christians to do what we do. Jesus, please, for your glory. In Jesus' name we ask.